Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, f*** it, I've got a book haul. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I need to stop buying so many books because I've got quite a few here. But some interesting ones. So let's go through them and see what you make of them. So I've got them stacked next to me, kind of just in order of size for health and safety reasons. So there's no particular rhyme or reason other than making a stack that wasn't going to fall over. So anyway, let me go through them. So first up we have Baxter by Jessica Hamilton, also known as Hound by Ken Greenhall. So this is a book that was republished by Valancourt as part of their Paperbacks from Hell series not that long ago. I've been trying to get a copy of it for ages under its original title, Baxter. So I had a saved eBay search, which came up trumps. So picked up this, never read it, it's supposed to be fantastic. So it's a kind of horror novel about a demonic dog, told, I think, largely from the perspective of the dog. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. Next up, another killer animal book. So this was very kindly sent to me by Nadine from the channel Tomb Raider, which is a fantastic channel, which you should check out if you're not already subscribed. So this again is a book I've been looking for ages. So it's a book that Michael K. Vaughan has talked about, as well as Greg from another Bibliophile reads quite recently, which is Feral by Bertron Roueche. I'm probably saying that wrong. Bertron Roueche. And whenever I looked online to find a copy in the UK, I couldn't find a copy that was affordable. All the copies were in the States. And then recently, Nadine featured it on her channel in a wrap-up, and it turns out the reason is it was called something completely different in the UK. It was called The Cats. So I commented on Nadine's video saying, oh, I really want to read that book, but I didn't realise it was called The Cats Over Here. And she said, having said in the video that she didn't think it was very good, she said, that's fine, I'll send you my copy. So thank you very much, Nadine. Very, very kind of you. So yeah, looking forward to reading this. I don't know when it came out, because there's another English horror novel also called The Cat, which I think came out maybe a couple of years later. So the Nick Sharman one, which will be featured in a future episode of Carry On Screaming, which I've got a copy of somewhere. So I'll need to find that one as well and display them next to each other. But yeah, anyway, The Cats by Bertrand Roueche. Right, next up. So this is a book. Do you get this thing? Maybe it's just me, where every so often you completely randomly remember a book you read years ago and decide you want to read it again. It's probably not just me, is it? Anyway, this is such a book. Strange Behaviour by Robert Hughes. So this is, I believe, a novelisation of a movie called Strange Behaviour, which came out in the 80s, which I can't remember if I've ever seen or not, but it's supposed to be quite good. And basically the plot is these kind of normal teenagers suddenly turn into homicidal maniacs and start killing people. So I read this probably before I was before I was old enough to, not too old to, and got it out of my local library and thought it was amazing. And I remember it being really graphic. So whether it is or not, we shall see when I reread it. But yeah, I do remember it being horrible. So I searched for it online, and it's like cheap. You know, it's not an interesting or notable old vintage horror paperback. So I grabbed it, but it's got a really cool cover, hasn't it? I do like that cover a lot. I remembered that cover vividly from having read it before. And the thing that's even better about this edition is, so it's a fairly grisly horror novel with a fairly grisly cover, and then inside there's an ex libris sticker from someone called Kate Leach. I do actually know someone called Kate Leach, so I don't know if it's the same Kate Leach or not. I suspect not. But it's a really cutesy Bramley Hedge one. So Bramley Hedge, I don't know if you get Bramley Hedge in the States, but in the UK it's the sort of thing that kind of young teenage girls and young girls are into, like stationery and toys and stuff like that. So it amused me that this horrible book had a Bramley Hedge sticker inside it. Anyway, I digress. Moving on. So there's another book that was sent to me by a fellow booktuber. So this was sent to me by Greg, another Bibliophile Reads, very, very kindly. So thank you, Greg. This is a book I have read, but really want to reread. So a classic early serial killer novel. So it came out in the 70s, I think. I've talked about the author Shane Stevens on the channel before. Did a review of his book Dead City, which is fantastic. And funnily enough, I sent Greg a copy of Dead City a while ago. So these are both books that we had multiples of. So a while ago I sent him Dead City, and he's now sent me By Reason of Insanity. So we are trading Shane Stephen books across the Atlantic. But yeah, a fantastic book. And this cover is brilliant. The UK cover is so boring compared to this. I absolutely love this cover. So yeah, looking forward to that one as a reread. Next up then, so this is a book by a black crime writer who I've never read, but who has quite a good reputation, Donald Goines. So has a reputation for writing kind of quite seedy, quite graphic, kind of slightly exploitative books about kind of criminals and things. So this is his last book. So it was actually published posthumously from a completed manuscript that was found after he died. So it looks interesting. Really keen to read some Donald Goines. I chose this one on Amazon purely because it was the cheapest. But if I enjoy it, I'll grab some more by him. And it's a lovely US paperback. I don't know why it is. So this is a UK paperback, and that's a US paperback. And you can see that the UK ones are ever so slightly bigger. I've never figured out why that is. You would have thought that it would be easier for them all to be the same size, but the UK ones are slightly bigger than the US ones, and I always thought there was something quite cool about the US ones, probably particularly when I was a kind of teenager into kind of nerdy sci-fi and horror and stuff like that, because if you had a book that was this size, it probably meant you bought it from Forbidden Planet, which was like the cool place to buy books, and they would have imported books. So yeah, if you know why that is, there may be no reason for it at all. Part of me kind of assumes that Americans all have smaller hands and so need smaller books, but that's probably not true. Right, moving on then. So I've got a stack of books here that I bought, which I already own, because that's how I roll. So if you see my shelf tour, you will know there is an Ed McBain shelf just there. A bunch of these McBain books I had in hardcover, but not in paperback. So A, they don't fit on the shelf and they don't go with the rest of my McBains. And B, I just prefer reading particularly this kind of book in paperback. I did subsequently, after all of them, realise that I did already have one of these in paperback as well as in hardback. So I now have 3 copies of that particular book. But these are the ones I got anyway. So this now completes my Ed McBain collection in paperback. So I've got Kiss. These are all from the 87th Precinct series. Fat Ollie's book. Mischief. Romance, which is the one I've now got 3 copies of. Widows. And with an absolutely terrible cover, Lullaby. That's a really awful cover, isn't it? So yeah, McBain's are always fun to receive. Also, always fun to receive are Executioner books. So this is the Executioner number 16, Sicilian Slaughter, which is, I can't remember which book I'm up to in the series, but I needed this as a gap I had, and I'm going to be getting to this one soon. So this is the first Executioner book that wasn't written by Don Pendleton. So this one was written by Jim Peterson. Pendleton then came back and wrote the next 10 or so, I think. I can't remember exactly. I think he wrote about 30 of them. And then after that, he sold the rights. And they are, Don Pendleton's name is on the cover, but they're written by ghostwriters. So this is a lovely US edition. I love this cover. Absolutely fantastic. The back's a bit crap, though. Look, it's just like loads of text. But yeah, looking forward to a bit more Mack Bolan when I get to book 16 in the series. So I featured in my last book haul video Fever Pitch by Nick Hornby, which I tried to buy and accidentally bought a signed copy of the screenplay for the film instead of the actual book. So I've now got that, so I will be reading this in October. DDB, who's a regular commenter on the channel, keeps on telling me I need to read some sports books. So I asked him to recommend one to me, and this is the one he recommended. So looking forward to reading that in October. Right, this book's got a dirty cover, so let me cleverly place my hand over it so you can't see the explicit nudity. So this is House Rules by Heather Lewis, her first novel. So I did a review in the week just gone for her final novel, Notice, which is an absolutely devastatingly fantastic book. Yeah, this is her first book, which is also supposed to be excellent. But I won't be reading it on the bus because it does have explicit nudity on the cover. Okay, next up then, Hell House by Richard Matheson. So this is the October pick for the Berthier Book Tag Book Club. So yeah, I love Richard Matheson. Haven't read this one. It's got a good reputation and particularly is supposed to be quite extreme at times. So the other Richard Matheson stuff I've read, I would classify as kind of reasonably tame. I think he's a fantastic writer, but I'm interested to see him kind of let loose and write something a bit more explicit. So yeah, looking forward to that. And then I picked up these two books. So these were featured on a channel called, or one of them was featured on a channel called Telltale Books, which is a fantastic channel, which I think I subscribed a while ago, but hadn't watched any videos. And then decided to dip in and watch their review of The Human Termites. Really, the guy who runs the channel is incredibly knowledgeable about vintage sci-fi. And yeah, so this book, The Human Termites, by David H. Keller, MD, got a great review on the on Telltale Books. So yeah, really looking forward to reading this. And I love these kind of reprints of vintage editions. And what makes them even better is you get two complete novels. So you not only get The Human Termites, you also get The Ambassador from Mars. Now, the one thing that is a bit disappointing is that these books are, you get The Human Termites and then you get Ambassador from Mars. I was kind of hoping that they'd be like the Ace Doubles, where you flip them over and, you start from that side, if that makes sense. But they're not. But anyway, I got this one. They've got tons of stuff out, this publisher, what they called armchair fiction. So tons of kind of reprints of classic pulpy stuff. Or maybe not so classic pulpy stuff in the case of The Human Termites, and indeed Ambassador from Mars. But they've got kind of suspense stuff, crime stuff, sci-fi, some horror. So I picked up this one, but I also picked up one of their crime ones, which has got Kiss and Kill by Richard Deming, which is a fantastically sort of grimy cover, isn't it? With the tagline, "He was almost sorry she had to die." So that looks fantastic. And then on the other side, we've got The Dead Stand-In, which is by Frank Kane, a Johnny Liddell mystery. And the tagline on this one is, "With corpses piling up, the finger of murder pointed at Johnny Liddell." So that looks great as well. So I'm really looking forward to reading these and seeing what they're like. Okay, moving on then. So this is a book that I didn't know was a book. So the film Election, which stars Reese Witherspoon and I forgot his name, the guy who was Ferris Bueller, Matthew Broderick, is a fantastic film. I really enjoy it. A great kind of 90s, I think it is, teen movie. This book, so the book Election by Tom Perotta, was featured on the channel Horror and Convenience in a wrap-up that Eve did there. And I didn't know it was a book, and I love the movie, and she said the book was fantastic, so I immediately bought a copy because that's the kind of thing I do. So yeah, really looking forward to reading this. If you don't know, it's about like an election for high school president or whatever they call it, I don't know, an election in a high school basically, where one of the teachers kind of gets involved in the election in ways that he shouldn't. So kind of a satire on politics, but also just a great fun story. Next up, an ARC I have been sent. So Dog Meat by Priscilla Bettis. So I showed this in my my small press spotlight video that I did the other day because of the packaging it came in was wonderful. But this looks like a really good horror novella. Pax from Pax Panic did a review of it a week or so ago and said it was fantastic. So thank you again, Priscilla, for sending me this. I'm very much looking forward to reading it. And that is a fantastic cover, isn't it? I think it's a really striking cover. Okay, right, we're getting into the really big books now. So the first big book is the big book of the Continental Op. So I read The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett in September and absolutely loved it. Michael K. Vaughan is reading this huge volume at the moment and speaks very highly of it. And people, when I did my comparison video of The Maltese Falcon and The Big Sleep, people kept on saying to me that I should read Red Harvest by Hammett. So loads of people said that. And this is in here. So this is a collection of all of the stories featuring Hammett's character, the Continental Op. So most of them are short stories, but it also includes 2 novels. The Cleaning of Poisonville, which is the one that became Red Harvest, and The Dane Curse, which were originally serialised in the kind of pulp magazines. So yeah, really looking forward to reading this. So it's got 28 stories. It's a big old book. It's like double columned as well. So yeah, I need to figure out when I'm going to read this because I haven't currently got it in my October TBR, but I really want to get to it soon. I also picked up, at the same time as I got these 2 kind of pulp reissue things, during Garb August, the channel Booknik had featured this book, Shock Suspense Stories. And I didn't realise that a lot of these old EC comics are now available in these really nice editions from Dark Horse. So back in the, I don't know if it was the late 80s or early 90s, when I was really into comics, someone, and I assume it was Dark Horse, started republishing some of the old EC stuff. So I've got a few of those up in the attic. But this is just a really nice edition. And I bet that these old EC horror comics have never looked as good as they do in here. The print quality is fantastic. So really looking forward to reading these. So I got 2 of them. I got Shock Suspense Stories Volume 1 with a fantastic cover there, and then The Vault of Horror Volume 1. So yeah, I can see me potentially picking up more of these because I love the old EC stuff, yeah, this looks like a very good way to get hold of them. And they're reasonably inexpensive as well. They're like, I think they were like £12 or something like that, these volumes, which seems like pretty good value to me. So yeah, really looking forward to those. And then finally, the weirdest book I bought. And I bought this because I'm a complete sucker. And every day I look on Amazon at the daily deals for Kindle books specifically, because you can often pick up, fairly new release Kindle books for 99p, and I tend to buy them and then just stay on my Kindle, and then at some point in the future I will read them, definitely. I will definitely read the 2,000 odd Kindle books I've got. But also in a daily deal they had this, which is really heavy. So this is Death Note. So I've heard a lot about Death Note. So if you don't know, it's a Japanese manga. Lots of people really love it. And I kind of, I was aware of it and wanted to read it. And they had this, so it's the complete Death Note. And it was like 22 quid or something like that, which seemed pretty reasonable to me. I'm interested in getting into reading comics again. So I thought I'd give it a try. But what's really mad about it is, and I did do a short on this the other day, it's not like 4 volumes in this box. It's 1 volume. So it's the complete thing. It's 2,400 pages long, but it's 1 book. So look at that. It's absolutely bonkers. But it looks great. I'm going to have to get used to, because it's a manga, you have to read it backwards. Or right to left rather than left to right. But it looks good. How well this will hold up to being read, I don't know. But I'm very much looking forward to reading it anyway. Okay, time for another random book from the shelves. This one really is random in that I got it in a job lot of books I got from eBay, which had some books that I wanted for Garb August in it. And this was also in there. For some reason, I've got it in my head that it's not the first book in the series. I may be wrong on that. I need to double check before I read it. But it's a lovely vintage sci-fi looking thing anyway. So it's called No Room for Man, and it's by Gordon R. Dixon. And it's got a lovely red edging to the pages. So yeah, I don't know much about it. But at some point, no doubt, I will read it. So yes, that's my latest book haul. Do let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. And yeah, as always, thanks very much for watching. I hope you're safe and well out there. I hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.